I can't afford school or student loans right now. Help. Hey, everyone. I'm in a bit of a bind with my student loans in school, and I could really use some advice. I'm 20 years old. I've been handling my college stuff completely on my own without much help. I've ended up with about $8,000 in student debt, which isn't a huge amount compared to some, but it's still a lot for me to manage right now. Here's the problem. I had no idea that once you've been out of school for a certain amount of time, they start collecting on your loans. I haven't taken classes for a couple semesters now and plan to go back this fall, but the loan payments are set to start in June, which is before the fall semester even begins. On top of that, I don't qualify for financial aid right now. College has been rocky for me from the beginning. I started out taking classes that were part of a degree path I later realized I didn't even want to pursue. I failed a few of those classes, which tanked my GPA. And ever since then, it's been an uphill battle trying to qualify for financial aid again. Even just one failed class drops my GPA below the requirement. So I've been stuck in this cycle. Another thing that makes this whole situation more overwhelming is that I've done all of this on my own. I haven't had any help from parents, friends, counselors, or mentors, literally no one. I don't really have anyone to turn to who knows how this stuff works. So I've just been figuring it out as I go. Honestly, it feels like I've accidentally driven myself into a hole and now I don't know how to get out of it. It's really frustrating. So here I am, stuck between not being able to afford my student loan payment starting in June and also not being able to afford to go back to school until the fall. I don't want to keep adding to my debt, but I also don't know how to handle the loan payments in the meantime. Has anyone been through anything similar? What did you do? All right, let me go ahead real quickly here, turn off the banner. I can't turn off banners and read at the same time. It's too hard. For those of you who have not been with this past week, um, I've been doing these really casual reads where I just hop on a student loan focused website and we just simply read together. This is not well, my videos are never scripted, I think, as we all know. But I don't pick stories in advance or anything. It's just meant to be casual and fun, and we'll be doing this a lot, especially with school on and stuff. It doesn't require any pre-planning or setup work on my end. So 2 months ago, and we have a person who is in $8,000 of student debt. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I almost did not put this story first. And typically, the reason I would not put this story first is I'm thinking $8,000, it's like, go complain to someone, that has, I mean, don't complain to someone that has, 5, 6 times that debt. It's like, here you are complaining about $8,000. But I think, and maybe complaining is the wrong word, but the reason I think this makes a good first story, and again, I just kind of randomly pick one, okay, is that this is how a person with a small amount of debt, like $8,000, all of a sudden, 30 years later, it balloons into I'm in $100,000 worth of debt. And we sit and we go, how could you possibly be? We're just making up numbers here. How could you be, 10 times over what you borrowed, which would be around, 80,000 or so, right? Well, you see, it starts like all student loan debt stories start, and that is we take out an amount for student loan debt without really understanding what it is we're doing. We don't understand the math. And I want to defend young people. I should even defend myself because I took my debt out, in my 30s, all right, and mess it up. But let me defend young people for a minute, that are taking out this debt. And we as older people go, well, didn't they teach you math? Yes, they understand math. The kids understand 8,000, 30,000. They understand that $100,000 loan is, going to be less than $50,000. Okay. They got that. But here's what they don't understand. They don't understand just how hard it is going to be to pay off the debt in relation to the amount of money they're going to be making after school. They don't understand taxes well enough to really understand the impact that taxes play on your paycheck. They don't understand the job market and the volatility. Remember, we're talking entry college students, okay? They just finished high school, all right? We're not talking experienced. I should have known better, but I digress. They don't understand, when you tell a young people, hey, $50,000 for this college degree, they're going to nod their head and go, yeah, that sounds just great. We'll take it. They don't understand what $50,000 is in paying it back. They haven't, a lot of them are taking out these debts, guys, and they haven't even worked an 8-hour job yet. They haven't had good bosses, bad bosses, good coworkers, bad coworkers. They haven't had jobs that were mentally bad for their health. In other words, they haven't experienced enough of life to really understand that to pay off a student loan debt, it's more than just the numbers. It's more than just you took out $50,000, pay it back. It's not understanding all the things that can happen to a young person from the time they signed on that loan at 18 or even 17 years old, perhaps with parent consent, all the way up until old age. They don't understand all that. It's not understanding the ramifications of what you're doing. In my 30s, I was taking out student loan debt at 34. I didn't understand student loans. I didn't check to see how my loan was growing. All I cared about, and it sounds stupid today, what's the monthly payment going to be? That is all I literally cared about. The total was insignificant to me because, after all, I was going to school to go get my University of Phoenix master's degree in organizational management. Didn't do squat with that. And thank God then USF, University of South Florida, for my master's degree in education. There's thunder going on. I may have to pause this part way through just because sometimes it'll black out the screen. So you may see a little jump cut as I save it every 20 minutes or so. Now, that's the part that they're not understanding. So I really thought this made a good lead story because this is how $8,000. And he says here, I had no idea that once you've been out of school for a certain amount of time, they start collecting on your loans. Let's not be harsh. Let's not be harsh and say, well, gee, you're dumb. You don't understand that. Let's not be harsh. A lot of people don't have someone to guide them. And people like me who should have known better, like I said, I was in my 30s, I screwed it up. I know a lot of people are thinking, oh my goodness, well, when did you think you were going to pay the loan back? You think it was just going to sit there? No, they didn't think it was going to sit there for forever, but they didn't understand how the loan worked. And again, we can shame, we can say how stupid they are, we can say all those things. The bottom line is you don't know what you don't know. And I think that's where a lot of the problems with young people and student debt are. And here's the sad part. You got channels like me, and I'm sitting there and I'm looking you in the eye and I'm saying to you, hey, you know what? Don't go to that really expensive school that's going to make you take out Parent Plus loans, student debt loans, that's going to make you pay it off for anything, okay? More than maybe 10 years and a couple $100s a month payback. And I mean just a couple hundred. But most people are going to blow that off because you see, unfortunately, a lot of young people think they already know it. I'm not shaming, okay? I'm being factual, all right? I don't try to shame on this channel, and unless you're a TikTok beggar, then shame away, okay? But even then, I try to. People have written me, and they think I'm a bit harsh. Trust me, this channel is really, really tame. Okay, there are much harsher channels out there. All right, I may be critical, but I try to do it from the lens of I want to help people understand my mistakes and the mistakes that they're going into. And here's the thing, a lot of young people won't listen to someone like me. They won't listen to someone like me say, look, don't take out $50,000 for God's sakes. Don't do it. You want to go into some liberal arts degree or you want to go into public service. Don't do it. You don't need a private school. Okay. You just need 2 years of community college, 2 years at the in-state school as cheap as possible. Get in, get out, you're done. But they're not going to listen to me. A lot of young people, I guarantee it to you, won't listen to me. You know how I know? Because that's not my audience demographic. Yet it should be the very demographic that's watching this and that's seeing these horror stories as they come by. So we have a young person here. They had no idea they were going to start paying back their student loans. And this person says they've been out of classes for a couple semesters and they plan to go back this fall. Now, remember, this is just 3 months ago. Okay. Most of these stories I think are pretty current. All right. So 3 months ago, as a teacher, I will tell you, it's my experience. Okay. In dealing with older people who have gone to school. Once you drop out of college, you rarely go back to graduate because you just start getting older. It's kind of like this. School has to almost be done, at least that first degree. The master's, PhDs, you can deal with a little bit later. But we're talking this first degree really has to be done, in my opinion, as young as possible before life starts to get in the way. You got some buy time from high school, okay, to your early, maybe even pushing mid-20s before you really, you need to start doing something with your life, all right? You want to be that 25, 26-year-old just sitting at home doing nothing. You really, really need to consider Okay. In this case, I would tell this person, look, they don't appear to really be collegiate material. And there is nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, you know what? Just like they did. They went to college. I think they said they realized they didn't want to major in that anymore. And they're dropping out. Okay, fine. What you don't want to do is keep dropping in and out, though. So if this redder goes back to school, I'm going to say statistically they're going to have a hard time graduating. It's kind of like this. School can sometimes feel like the torture wheel. I mean, not literally, okay, but you get what I mean. All your weekends, all your nights, you're sitting up at Starbucks till it closes, and you're there past the time that the baristas, leave. All right, and they're pretty much pushing you out the door. You're at Barnes and Noble till 11 p.m. Yeah, it may be your birthday, but you're going to skip all the fun. In other words, school takes a certain mental and physical toll. Now, of course, we know this, but the reason I'm telling you this is because I believe that once you drop out of school, and all of that pressure kind of goes away and you just start working a daily job and then you try to go back to school, it's really, really hard. It's really hard to get back into that mindset. Now, does this mean people can't do it? Of course not. And people go, they leave school and then they come back. I'm talking about for really young people that are basically hopping in school, they're hopping back out. Now this redder's going to hop back in. I think it's a mistake. And I would almost tell this redder, I think they would be a good candidate to focus on paying off the $8,000, do a job and a half, job or two. They're young. And when the $8,000 is paid off, they'll be maybe a year older, maybe even 2 years older, depending upon their budget. What is a big bill to you? What is a small bill to you may be a big bill to someone else. And I would tell them pay off that $8,000. When the $8,000 is done, you've had time in the workforce, stretched your wings a little bit in the workforce. Decide then if you are interested in going back to school. I think to jump back into school while you've got an $8,000 bill that you're already questioning how to pay, and clearly you're going to have to take on more student loan debt, I think is a mistake. I believe that my advice is really good. Okay. Because clearly they were not ready for college. And let's make this very clear. There is no shame in going to school and then going, oh my gosh, this just isn't for me, and leaving. And maybe you'll go back, a year later, 2 years, maybe you'll go back in your 30s, maybe you'll never go back. But what I care about on this channel is that you don't rack up more and more student loan debt trying to go back, thinking that you have to go back, thinking, well, I started something and I need to finish it. Not when it deals with student loan debt. If you find it's not working, it's okay to go ahead and put the debt down. They're doing this all on their own. No help from parents and friends. Yep. But you have channels like this. So hopefully they're listening. They probably don't. They probably don't even know I'm on here. Hey, if you know this redder, tell them to listen to this channel. Okay. So payments started back in June. Again, this was just 3 months ago. So they're back on payments and not being able to afford to go back to school until the fall. But that's going to be most likely, it appears, with student loan debt. I don't think you should go back to school in the fall. That's what I would tell this redder. I'm telling you, pay off the $8,000, reevaluate after the $8,000 is paid off. If it takes you a year, if it takes you 6 months, if it takes you 2 years. Have anyone been anything similar? Yep, we all have. Lots of us have. All right. Scrolling. All right. Next story is from 5 months ago. It's titled, If I Can't Afford My Loans, What Do I Do? I have over $100,000 in loans. Being a first-gen student who went to graduate school, I make $65,000, about $4,000 a month. So they make $65,000 gross. They take home $44,000 a month. I pay about $1,100 in rent and $880 in childcare, $450 for a car loan in its last year. Car insurance, gas, groceries, a cell phone plan. I buy myself a Dunkin' Donuts coffee on Saturday when I bring my daughter to her dad's, and Sunday when I go pick her up. So this is the mother writing. I don't have cable or internet and only stream with my free Netflix. I don't have hobbies. I don't do any paid activities. I own 4 pairs of pants and maybe twice as many shirts between short sleeve and long. Some I've seen before the pandemic. I haven't paid my student loans since they came due again after COVID, which I know is a mistake, but I'm honestly afraid. What if I can't pay them? I don't live extravagantly. I barely live, honestly. I work, then come back to my apartment and play Play-Doh with my toddler, take her down the street to the playground before we take a bath and go to bed. I can't cut anything more out and I can't make much more money. I'm worried I'll lose my child over this, despite her other parent, being her father, taking on no parenting since her conception and being actively neglectful of his other child. But if it comes down to unstable housing and access to food with me, is there any hope? All right. Scroll this back up. Okay, 5 months ago. First off, don't think there's a case of just because the parent can't pay the student loan somehow goes for child abuse and neglect. If your child were to be taken from you, it is my belief, I'm no attorney, but it is my belief it would have nothing to do with your student loan debt. Let's take a look at it like this. Okay. Let me lower the camera here just a bit. Let's take a look at it like this. If every parent who was delinquent and what is it? Delinquent, negligent, neglectful, intentionally, not intentionally, okay, that had student loans, had their kid taken from them, that would be millions and millions of parents. So I think we can kind of put aside that this redditor thinks that because they have student loan debt, that the debt is going to be what, gets the child taken from them. No, if the child is taken from you, it's because you don't have food and shelter and all of that. It would have, I believe, nothing to do with the student loan debt. Now, I'm not an attorney, but I can say that with pretty good confidence. Okay, $100,000 loan, first gen student. How often have we heard that? But let's face it, folks. Social media is out there. Okay, again, this is only 5 months ago with all the social media. I understand you're first gen. I understand you want to impress your family. Don't do it. Don't do it, especially if you know that you can't pay the loan back. Graduate school. Graduate school is the death of most student loans, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, the death meaning that's the final nail in the coffin to your household budget is graduate student loan debt. They will tell you, and I can't remember where I read it, but I know I read it somewhere. Okay. It's not the bachelor's degree that really kills people's budget. It's the graduate school. Because you see, let's just assume you didn't go to an out-of-state private school. Okay. Your average bachelor's degree might be 30,000, 40. We'll even take it to 50. Okay. So that you can actually pay off. Yeah, you really can. I paid off in the 16 years I had my loan. I paid off about 42,000. It all went to interest. So my loan grew from 85 to 110. But imagine if I had just had a $40,000 loan. Could I have paid it off as a single teacher? Yes, I could have paid it off. It still wouldn't have been fun, but it could have been done. Could I pay off 85,000? The other 40 that I racked on from graduate school? No, I could not. Now then, says here 65,000 takes home $4,000 a month. They and I make almost identical pay. My teacher base pay is 63,000, and I do a little child care job and that. So yes, and I grossed 70,000 the last 2 years. So this redditor and this mother and I are in the exact same pay scale. She has child care, she has rent, she has $450 for a car loan that it's in its last year. Here's the thing. This whole paragraph right here, she talks about buying herself for Dunkin' Donuts. She says, I don't have cable. I stream free with Netflix. I don't have hobbies. This is what happens to our lifestyle when we carry debt that we cannot eventually bankrupt. She can't bankrupt this. And you know that, of course. Okay. I think most student loan graduates know that, or student loan borrowers should if they don't. This is the problem with tons of student loan debt. I started this channel in 2019. The things that you see on this channel today, the graphics, everything, the lighting, graphics, the only thing left I had to get is a camera. Okay. Maybe sometime in the next year or so. We'll see. I couldn't afford to do this. And I will tell you, when I first started this little hobby, it was literally like every other YouTuber, was me and my cheap computer. If you don't believe me, go look at some of those early videos. Okay. The content was great. Commentary, wonderful. It's just, it didn't look nothing like this. All right. This is what happens though, is you wind up feeling like, you're living a life of poverty. They make the same amount that I make. So I'm trying to visualize myself. I'm going, okay, let's say I have a child care, I have a car loan. Remember, this redditor and I make almost identical income. The rent at $1,125, that's excellent rent. That is excellent. She's got a 2-bedroomer for that, most likely. Okay. She buys herself a Dunkin' Donuts coffee. Guess what? I go to Dunkin' Donuts usually on Fridays, maybe, I don't know, twice a month, sometimes twice a month. But the difference is I can afford to do other things. That's the big difference. But when I had my student loan debt on top of it, and I was carrying 110,000, there was really not much you can do. And you can't take the attitude. Guys, I know some of you out there want to take the attitude, just screw it. I'm going to go ahead and live my life. Yes, you can live your life and you can put on TikTok, I'm living my life, and everybody can give you the thumbs up. Okay. They can all do that. But there's one small problem. That's all show. It is. When you see somebody with a crap load of student loan debt and they're telling you just how wonderful life is and they're still going to travel and they're still going to live in their dream location, they're going to do all this stuff and they don't care about their six-figure debt or whatever, significant debt they have. They're lying to you. I just want that. Just want to state that for the record, because what happens is other people look at them and, this lady here, she's living the life of someone with $100,000 student loan debt. But yet you could take this story, flip it onto TikTok and go, I'm $100,000 in student loan debt. My baby daddy pays nothing. But you know what? I'm going to live the life. And look at me. I'm holding my Starbucks. I'm going to go travel. You see? But that's all show. When you get yourself into so much debt that you can't live the life you want, there's a problem. And people sit there and they'll say things like, oh, but you're doing your dream job. Screw the dream job if it requires you to live like a pauper for the rest of your life. You don't need the dream job. The dream job is not everything. Work-life balance, to me, is much more valuable than the dream job. Of course, somebody could say that, well, Carrie, you're kind of a hypocrite saying that because you're doing your dream job. I am. I'm in my dream teaching job. I was very, very lucky that I got PSLF. I admit it. But in hindsight, if I had to look at it, and would I take the same steps to become a teacher that I took? No, that would just be silly. I would have retired with a student loan debt that was probably encroaching 150,000 plus. Think about it. I retire in 11 years and it was already sitting at 110. And remember, as your student loan balance is big, the interest racks up even faster. This is why someone with a $200,000 debt, remember that story we did the other day? I'll try to remember, put at the end. That person with $200,000 debt, within just a few years, it was past 300,000. She's living, I hate to say it, but she's living an honest, broke student loan life. She says she hasn't paid her loans, so wage garnishment is most likely going to happen. Remember, this is just 5 months ago. She says, I barely live. Right. And that's the problem, is the young people going to school racking up all this debt. They haven't had this experience yet. And what have I told you time and time again? And I will continue to preach it. At some point, your student loan debt is not going to be the thing you want to focus on. You're going to want to have other life experiences. Now, has she had other life experiences? Yes, she has a child. Now, some people say, but student loan debt shouldn't keep you from having a child. I didn't say it should keep you from having a child. What I said was you're going to want other life experiences. Once you get that student loan debt going and rolling and it's too much for you to pay off, at some point you're going to shrug your hands and you're going to go, forget it. You know what? I want other life experiences. She started doing it. She got into a relationship. She has a child. You see how this works? Now, you really want to, you could say, well, she should be really responsible. She shouldn't have a child till the debt is paid off. Absolutely. Sure. But at some point, you're going to get tired of just paying the student loan and you're going to want something else. And that something else is going to cost you a whole lot of money. Now, we could get real technical. Let's say it costs, what do they say, $250,000 approximately to raise a kid? I think that's the term I've heard. Let's make it around $250,000 to raise one kid. Well, there's your student loan debt now, isn't it? See? Just sacrifice not having the child. That money that she's paying for $880 a month that she's paying for daycare, right there, $880 a month in childcare should be going to the student loan. See, I like these stories because they prove my point. You want to do something other than pay the student loan debt. But unfortunately, those other things that you want to do typically cost money. If you missed any of these stories from last week, I'll post them at the end. All right, let's go on to the next story. Scrolling. I just kind of picked these on the title. What shall we pick, children? What happens if I don't pay back my student loans? We already know they wage garnish you. Scrolling. Told you this is casual. This is casual, relax. So have your coffee, kick back, Let's see here. Can't afford to pay my loans. What do I do? 7 months ago. Let's do it. I can't. Oh, this is from 7 months ago. Here we go. I think I just said that. Hey, everyone. I just am not sure what to do in this situation. I work part-time and I pay all my own bills and everything. I'm even on food stamps so I can get food each month. I don't make enough to save or have extra money at the end of the month. Well, this month my job had their hours cut, and so I will be working even less. I have an upcoming payment, my first one for my student loans. On November 1st, I applied for income-driven repayment. It is still in review, and I have a payment due on January 30th. So they're talking 24 and now January 2025. after they have pushed it back a few months for me. I'm not sure what to do in this situation, so any help is appreciated. When I Google, it keeps saying to just apply for income-driven repayment, well, which I applied for months ago. The problem with income-driven repayment is that they keep taking it on and off, on and off. Like PSLF, I think, is on hold right now while they update the computers. Guys, here's the bottom line. When you can't afford to pay your student loans, you're going to go into the same crab bucket that most other people do. You're going to put it on forbearance. They're going to continue racking up the interest rate. And please keep in mind that you can only go on forbearance for so long. It is not an endless period of time. With the new big, beautiful bill, okay, just like any other bill that they have dealing with student loans, there is a limited time when you can no longer be on forbearance and you still cannot pay the loan. You can try to say lower the interest rate. If it's a private loan and it's at some ridiculous interest rate, like anything over 5-6% to me is ridiculous for a private loan. If it's a federal loan, you can look at the interest rate and try to lower it. But with federal loans, it's pretty hard to beat the federal loan interest. And I have said to you, I really am anti taking federal loans and transferring them to private loans, because once a federal loan is transferred to become a private loan, then any chance of forgiveness is gone. Like, that's it. Bye-bye. You could have it transferred over on Monday, and Tuesday, some great God from the sky could come down and say, all student loans are forgiven if you have federal loans. Here is the bottom line. When you can't afford to pay your loans, you wind up making TikToks and writing stories onto Reddit and other student loan debt sites saying you took out this money, you didn't understand what you were doing at the time that you took it out, and now you have child, spouse, you've got a house, and you just can't afford these loans. I know that sounds kind of sarcastic and not very helpful. I'm not being sarcastic. Okay. But I'm really trying to be honest. Guys, the truth hurts sometimes. And sometimes I get hate mail because of it. Okay. Depending upon how hateful it is, I might have to delete them. Okay. I don't delete many, but from time to time, a moderator and I do kind of have to go through a little. Okay. I'm being honest. You see, if you watched a video I did just the other day, I said to you, the problem with these stories is that there are no solutions that anyone's going to like. Anyone being the people who are writing in saying, help me. The solutions are birth control until your loan is paid off, because you can't afford the child care and everything else. Good. That child care money should be going to your student loan. I'm not saying that's right. Okay. I'm work with me here. Okay. The solution is go ahead and work 2 jobs. Oh, you can't work 2 jobs because you have a child? And to work 2 jobs, who's going to watch that young child? Okay, there's a problem there. Okay, work 2 jobs. Oh, you can't work 2 jobs, and you don't have a kid, but maybe you live in some rural area, and working 2 jobs just isn't possible because there aren't enough job openings. You see, everything that could be a solution, nobody likes. You have student loan debt, and maybe your spouse does too. Everybody works 2 jobs. In other words, the answer is work, increase your income. Now don't be like Dave Ramsey, because I do reactions to him too. And he would just say, double up that income in the next year. Come on, be realistic. You don't think at this economy with the price of eggs and bread and butter that if we could double our income, we wouldn't be doing it? Just to say double the income, make more money. That it doesn't work. I'm not saying that there isn't somebody out there that just doubled up their income because they hit it big in slots. Okay. I understand. But we have to really look at what's realistic. And the problem is these stories are how 20, 30 years from now, okay, somebody winds up writing in, calling in saying, I've had the student loan debt for the last 30 years. This is how it all starts. It starts with, I took on debt I could not afford and I don't have the means to pay it back. What do? Work more hours, give up your free time, and take your bills down to absolute minimum. You say you have Netflix, that's $10 a month. That's $10 a month that could go to your student loans. You like to go to Starbucks every Friday? Well, let's see. Let's say you spend $10 there. There's now $20 a month. So give up your Starbucks, give up your Netflix. But you see what the problem is? You feel like the sacrifices you're making, the financial sacrifices that you perhaps need to make, the amount that your pain is so small towards the loan, it's not worth giving up the sacrifice. In other words, the $10 that I spend at Starbucks, not literally, okay, I'm giving an example here. The $10 I spend at Starbucks every single Friday adds up to $40 a month. That's $40 I give towards the student loan. But the problem is the student loan is so big, I don't feel like $40, and it's not significant. So why should I give up my Starbucks? See how this works? I've been there, guys. I have literally been there. So I started adding up the Starbucks. I started adding up, instead of paying $15 a month for ad-free Netflix, I drop it down to $8. You see? What happens is when you get into so much debt, any sacrifices that you make that takes enjoyment out of your life, it becomes not worth it. See, part of the reason people will have kids, even when they carry huge amounts of student loan debt, is because the sacrifice for a child, if you're a good parent, okay, the sacrifice for a child is worth it. It brings you joy. Nobody holds their student loan after they've paid off their $100,000 and rocks it in their arms and go, oh, this is just the best little student loan, goo goo gaga. Nobody does that. But you can goo goo gaga the kid. You can see the kid grow. All right. Go through the stresses of parenting. In other words, we start looking at our debt. We look at where we want our life to go, what we want to do. We look at what we're willing to financially sacrifice for. I don't want to sacrifice Starbucks, Netflix, and the little enjoyment. Maybe I have to go see a movie twice a month so I can pay that $100 towards the student loan. It's not worth my sacrifice. But the problem is, it's also not going to help pay the bill off. You got to remember, you took on that student loan and you started with $1. You started with a gumball, the gumball machine. I'm sure they're like $1 now. And you bought too many gumballs. I thought that was kind of cute analogy. But the problem is when your debt is so big, it feels like nothing will pay it off. And if you feel like nothing is going to pay it off, then why would you want to make sacrifices to pay it off? Because you feel that nothing will pay it off. I thought that was deep, you guys. All right, let's go. Let's scroll down here. Let's see here. I can't afford to start paying. I think we read that one. I can't afford this school year. See, now you see how I select stories. It has to just like really kind of ring a bell. Okay, here we go. We're going to read from 5 months ago. My loans enter repayment this month, and I can't afford the payments without an income-driven repayment plan, also known as IDR. What should I do? Okay, so their loans enter payment, and they can't afford the payments. Let's all stop for a minute here, folks. Okay. Would you buy a car? Would most of us? Let's say you might, but we can't look at the extremes, okay? Because somebody would do it. All right, I probably would, and you probably wouldn't. Would you buy a car that you absolutely knew you could not afford? That you absolutely knew on the very first payment you were going to be bankrupt on it? Would you do it? No, most of us would not. Would we buy a house that we absolutely knew 110% once that mortgage hits, I can't afford it? Would we even, very responsible people, would we even run up a credit card that once we knew that first bill hit, we couldn't even make the minimum payment, much less pay into the principal? Of course, we wouldn't. But what do we do with student loans? We go ahead, we rack up all we want. I'm guilty of it too. All right. We rack up all we want. And then we sit and go, oh my goodness, the bill is due. What are we going to do? So that's what happens over and over again. So let's hear this. My loans enter repayment this month. I can't afford the payments. My first student loan payment is due March 26th, 2025. With income-driven repayment plans currently halted, there's no way I can afford the regular payment. What should I do? I tried to call Mohila, and their wait times are currently 4 hours. Sweet Jesus. Is forbearance my best option here? Will they even grant me forbearance? The Mohila website doesn't have a place for me to apply. It just gave me options to apply for teacher deferment, and it said I didn't qualify for that. Well, if you're on teacher deferment, you've either done it before, maybe you're in school. So I don't know what the situation is, but there's a technical reason. This part, will they grant me a forbearance? I wish they would write back in after they held on hold. I don't know if they're going to grant you a forbearance because it all depends upon whether or not you've been on it before, and it may depend upon your payment history. These are the type of phone calls you don't want, folks. This right here. With income-driven repayment plans currently halted, there's no way I can afford the regular payment. What happens when you can't afford the regular payment? What's going to happen? That loan bill is just going to go higher and higher and higher. But many people will breathe a false sigh of relief and say that, oh, you know what? They got my payment down to what I can afford. Remember what I've told you. When you are on income-driven repayment, you are paying to sit on the loan and never pay it off. Let me repeat that. When you are on income-driven, income-based, okay, whatever, reduced payment, because you can't afford the regular monthly, let's say 10-year payoff or even 20-year payoff. You can't afford either one of those. You are going to be making monthly payments to not ever pay off your student loan. So when you look at your loan balance 5 years from now and it's higher, you're going to remember, oh, yes, I've been on income-based, income-driven repayment plans, and I was paying to not pay off my loan. Kind of changes when you think about that, doesn't it? All right, let's take a look at this one. I was accepted also 5 months ago. What time is it? 37? This has no time limit. It's Saturday evening for me, but it'll be Sunday morning for you guys. Okay. This is titled, I was accepted to Notre Dame, but almost can't afford it. Is the degree worth a ton of student loans? Oh, sweet Jesus. Will the doors this degree opens outweigh the high student loan debt? I say we take a look at it. Here we go. All right. Accepted Notre Dame, can't afford it. Should they still go? Let me scroll this down. This was 5 months ago. I was recently accepted into Notre Dame, UMD. I do not know what UMD means, and Purdue, but I do know these are very expensive schools. I need some help making a decision. I might transfer into something more business finance related. Notre Dame has been a dream school of mine. Love the campus, culture, football since I started high school, but now I feel like I can't go. Stop. I got to stop before we even read this, okay? Because you know I'm reading this for the first time with you, but every now and then, this. Remember what I said to you probably 40 minutes ago? I said to you, one of the things I love about reading these stories is the fact that they help prove the points I have been trying to make. Okay. Lots of points that I've been trying to tell you going, you know, these are the problems when young people take out student loan debt. This sentence right here. Notre Dame has been a dream school of mine. I love the campus, the culture, the football. Loved it since high school. How many times have you heard me say, too many people pick a school because of the emotion? I love the mascot. This is my dream. I just got to go here. It has nothing to do with, notice they didn't say the curriculum. Notice they didn't talk about the finances. Now, of course, I understand they're going to discuss it here later, but I want you to see it's all on the fun side. I love the girls. I love the guys. I love the spring break parties. I love the, fraternities, sororities. I just love it. Okay. Let's talk to people in a ton of student loan debt and tell me if it was worth it. But that sentence right there that I have highlighted tells you this is one of the points I harp on. And I tell people, young people, do not pick a school because you think it's a party atmosphere and everything there is a party, culture, football, campus. There you go. This is your future $200,000 student loan borrower. Remember, this was 7 months ago. I think it said 7 months ago, 5 months ago. All right. Notre Dame is significantly more expensive. Y'all think? $90,000 a year compared to Purdue and Maryland, both around $50,000. I have other siblings in college, and my parents are willing to pick up 30 to 40 of the tuition wherever I end up going. However, the rest of it I will need to fund myself with student loans, work study, etc. Is Notre Dame education worth going around $200,000 to $240,000 into debt? What did I say? What did I say? I said, this is your future $200,000 student loan borrower. And that is after the parents have paid, let's just say $40,000 a year. They said 30 to 40. We'll be generous. The parents will take care of what would be the equivalent of just about 2 years. The redditor will pick up the other two. I was right. I said, this is your future student loan borrower. Remember, the football is good. The hot cocoa, they probably got a real rockin' gym. They probably have an indoor bowling alley, a swimming pool, a rock climbing wall. I mean, what would you not want for $200,000? I remember, that's just 2 years. 2 years. I know it says 90,000, but you're always going to spend more than just what the school has. All right. So from what I've heard, the connections, oh yes, the alumni and jobs are amazing, but I'm worried that shouldering that much debt for a computer science degree isn't my best choice. Though I am considering Mendoza Business Finance. I personally have never heard of that. Potentially in the long run, especially when Purdue and Maryland have great programs. Any thoughts, advice would be appreciated. Yes, don't go. Don't go. Don't go. All right. It's the Reddit. I guess they add an edit that said it's been stressful navigating financial aid and stuff like that. Okay, I want to go back. I want to go back to this sentence right here. Let me find it. Hold on, I'm going to find it. Come on, Carrie, use your skimming skills here. Hold on. Okay, right here. Alumni and jobs. From what I've heard, okay. This is not a reason to go to a expensive school and get yourself $200,000 of debt. And I'm going to tell you why. You know, all these, you've heard the connections. Children don't go to school on a $200,000. I heard. Here's the other thing. Your parents are going to pay 30 to 40,000. Okay. You're going to take out approximately 200,000. According to the people at Notre Dame, you broke. You are not going to be in the same club, the same dorm room with the uber rich. You know, all those people that you think you're going to be what is it? Is it? I can't think of the word. Hobsnozzing with or whatever. Okay. They ain't going to be with you. You broke. You see, the rich people that you're thinking of that are going to Notre Dame, they probably have private dorms. I wouldn't be surprised if some rich schools, the president's kids and all that, and it's probably not true, but work with me here, okay? They got connections already. They don't need the connection with you. Now, I'm not trying to be rude and insulting, all right? But here's the bottom line. The people that most of you guys think you're going to be, what is it? Associating with and stuff. Guess what? When you're done with school, you're going back home to go live at home with your parents, and they're going to go off on their helicopter and go to their private yacht in the island. You see, this would be a really good, this writer would be a really good candidate to be manipulated by a student aid office. Not saying student aid offices do that. Okay. So if you're a student aid employee, don't, well, if you're going to come after me, make sure you leave a comment. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a thumbs up. Okay. Helps the algorithm. But this is the type of person that if they're sitting in a student aid office and the student aid person is going, hey, you know what? We can get you next to the rich and famous. This $200,000 that you're going to spend on top of what the parents are going to spend. God help them if it's a Parent Plus loan. Oh, sweet Jesus. Okay. We can get you there. You see how this works? You see how people get roped into it? But the problem is when he graduates and computer science, I don't know. Have you heard something called AI, artificial intelligence? I don't know much about computer science, but I do know AI is working its way through the computer system real nicely. See the problem? This is how young people with their dream since high school to go to such and such, school wind up in massive amounts of debt. And then they graduate and then they realize everybody else has a computer science degree. And then they also realize, oh, gee, I don't know where they live, but there aren't enough computer science degrees in the area that I live in. And oh, by the way, that we can jump to the first story or so. I have $200,000 in student loan debt and I don't know how to pay it back. I can't make that payment unless it's income based. And then they call in 5 years later and go, my $200,000 student loan from Notre Dame, because I thought I was going to be hobnobbing with the rich people. It's now $300,000. Where did I go wrong? Well, you see, buddy, you went wrong. Up here in this first sentence, I love the campus culture and football. Yeah, this works. It says how you fall into student loan debt. And like I said, nothing. Campus culture and football. That's all fun stuff. The unfun stuff is how much debt are we going to have to take on to get you through this school? And how the bejesus are we going to pay it off? This kid has no way to pay off this bill. And you know how we also know? His parents are having to fork out part of it and he's having to take out debt. He has no way to pay it off. No, don't go to this school, but I want you to see how that works. We are 45 minutes in. Shall we continue? Heck, why not? Hi, Susan. Let's see here. Am I being an idiot paying more on my student loans? All right. 5 months ago, am I being an idiot paying more on my student loans? I have about $18,000 left on my student loans. Ooh, that's nice. The total is combined from two consolidated loans, one from sub and one from unsubsidized. Remember, subsidized is where the government pays the interest on the loans while you're in school. Unsubsidized, the government does not pay the interest. Okay. You don't have to pay it right away, but it accrues for the unsubsidized. Okay. And the interest rate for both is just over 4%. All right. This is doable. If I was going to do the minimum payment of $140, like the flow chart, okay, on this thread, it would take me darn near 15 years to get off my plate. Yeah, because remember, it's just like it's a amortized loan. Okay, just like a car. All the money, all the interest is front loaded. Okay, and I can't justify taking 15 years to pay it off in my head. Instead, I'm paying $700 per month. I arrived at this number since it's roughly the amount left over in the needs category after paying other bills. It will mean my loans are paid off by May 2027. That's when I want to start looking for a house. Goals, dreams, hopes. All right. Do I really just need to get over the feeling of distaste in me regarding having these loans and put the money to retirement, or should I stay with the loaded payments? So they're asking, should they start transferring money to retirement and keep the student loan on the slow path to pay off, or should they halt the retirement and Speedy Gonzalez the student loan? One other thing to know is that my job is titanium, even with the dim economic outlook. So I'm not worried about suddenly becoming unemployed. I don't know much about metals or titanium or anything. I don't even know if titanium's a metal. I never learned how to read the periodic table of the elements. I don't even know if titanium is on there. Okay. They have a good company match at 8%, yada, yada. All right. Here's my suggestions. It's pretty darn easy. Pay off the student loan. Putting money into retirement while you owe student loan debt is kind of silly. And I know there are people who do it, but to me, that's like having a savings account. Well, I owe debt on something else. I have said many times, your savings account, your retirement account is only as strong as the debt that it's facing. So I can, hey, I got $50,000 sitting in a retirement account. Oh, and by the way, I have $30,000 of student loan debt. Okay, so 50 minus 30, so you got a $20,000 retirement account. See, remember what I said about 15 minutes ago? I said some things are more fun to sacrifice for. It's more fun to sacrifice to pay off retirement. To build up your retirement than it is to pay off your student loan debt. This is why student loan debt needs to be gotten rid of as fast as possible. Because much like losing that new car smell, okay, we don't want that old car that's beaten down. We don't want that. So we need to get rid of that student loan debt before it becomes the old beaten down car. It's fun saving for retirement. I actually enjoy it. Okay. As you may know, only about a year ago, I started aggressively saving for retirement. I tried to put about probably around $1,200 to $1,500 a month into retirement because I have to play catch up. So yeah, I'm not one of those people. Oh yes, I only need to put in $300 because I started when I was 19. God bless you if you did. Okay, God bless you. So I'm doing some serious catch up, but I should be okay. So yeah, pay off the student loan. Don't forget the retirement, especially when you're that close. You only got 18,000. Knock out the student loan. Okay, what else shall we do? Hey, I curled my hair today, you guys. Can't seem to pay off my student loans. This is from a year ago. Before we click this open, why do we think they can't pay off their student loan? What makes you think that they can't pay it off? I'm going to say it's because they took on too much. And I'm also going to say they have income based. All right, let's hit it. I told you guys, this is casual. This is like tea and coffee. This is as close to live as you're probably going to get. All right. So, and we had two power outages today. This is why I don't do live, guys. I'd be sitting here reading these heartfelt stories. Then all of a sudden the power would go out and there we are. Okay. Can't seem to pay off my student loan. This is from a year ago. I have $25,000 in student loans. I'm being charged payments every month. My wife makes $1,500 a month and I make $3,800. So 4,000. So I make a little 5,000. We both have cars. We're financing as well as our bills, rent. The student loan is $340 a month. And in 2 years, we will have a $200,000 inheritance. I just want to pay it off as soon as possible so I don't need to worry about another monthly expense. Now that we have 2 cars, $900 a month finance, and $350 a month insurance. Any advice to get this paid off? Well, first off, uh, I did receive some inheritance help to get me my condo. Okay, not enough to make me rich, clearly. Okay, I purchased a little $100,000 condo, but I will tell you this: never ever in a day did I ever think of an inheritance into my budget. Like if I found out my kid did that, I'd probably uninherit them. I probably wouldn't, but I would have a serious sit down as to where I went wrong in parenting. Basing your budget because of what you think is going to be an inheritance is not just morally okay? It doesn't make you a nice person. It just doesn't. In 2 years, we will have a $200,000 inheritance. You don't know what's going to happen in 2 years. And I don't know whose inheritance it is, because legally the inheritance is going to be given to the person directly that is supposed to inherit it. And that person will then decide whether or not they want to share it with their spouse. I only know that because of my inheritance. So if you're married and you get inheritance, typically, again, I'm not an attorney, but I can tell you just from my experience, typically the inheritance is to be given directly to the person that's supposed to be the inheritor. If that inheritor happens to be married, then they can choose to make that inheritance communal property, which I would encourage if you're in the right marriage. Okay. There are some I would say, you might want to think twice about that. All right. This is a sick way to think about paying off your bills. Also, even when this student loan is paid off, I can tell you it's not going to solve their financial issues. Yes, it'll be great. The student loan will be paid off if they get that $200,000 inheritance, which just makes me ill to think of. You just don't sit there and go, oh, gee, now I expect that my parents are going to leave me this amount of money, so I'm going to live my life on that. But here's why they have a problem bigger than the student loan. They have a spending problem. You know how I know? 2 cars, almost $1,000 a month in financing cars, $350 a month in insurance. But again, that's for 2 cars. Honestly, that's probably not unreasonable. I pay $150 a month for insurance, but still, okay. You got 2 cars, 2 insurances, 2 maintenances, 2 gas. You get my point. These people are money hungry, greedy. So I'm glad you can't pay off your loan. Figure it out. That's going to be my advice for them.